Shadrick, Mike Dempsey, and Brian Sexton have all the news and information to get you ready for today's game. The Publix Tailgate Show is brought to you by Baptist Health, Farah and Farah, and by TIAA Bank. The Publix Tailgate Show starts right now.
Good morning. Happy New Year, and welcome to the Publix Tailgate Show. Hour number one, Brian Sexton and Mike Dempsey with you. Well, the Jaguars are close to a probable outcome, or at least one that seemed too distant to reach when the calendar turned to November. Back then, the Jaguars found themselves at 2-6, but today, if they win the final two games, they guarantee themselves the AFC South title and a home playoff game. I didn't see that coming, nor did I see them owning a stretch of the season where they faced playoff caliber teams, the Ravens, the Titans, the Jets, and the Cowboys. They did, and here they are in search of a goal no one suggested they could reach this season. It's been a great ride, and it looks like there's a fork in the road, and the Jaguars will try to lean into that one that says playoffs this direction instead of better luck next year. Hello, everybody. Mike
Morning,
Dempsey.
Brian. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
I agree with you. When they were 2-6, I was thinking my prediction of 7 wins looked really stupid.
When they were 2-6, Mike, I thought they blew the opportunity to get to that 7 wins. They had missed the winnable stretch of the schedule. But what we couldn't predict then, and how does anybody predict, is that Doug Peterson and Trevor Lawrence would get this thing on the same page so quickly and be able to beat the Ravens and the Titans and the Jets and the Cowboys, all teams that are fighting into the playoffs. It's not like they were playing the Broncos at the end of the year. They were, they're getting the Texans today, but this is a bit of a reprieve from the schedule that we've seen.
Oh, no doubt. Look, I think it's certainly the combination is big, but it's Trevor Lawrence more than anything. I mean, it's the way he is playing right now, and so many people have gone back to that Denver game in London, the interception that he threw, and how that was kind of a turning point for him. And he was getting down on himself with turnovers. Well, he hasn't had to worry about that much recently, Brian, over the last 7 games.
No.
16 touchdowns accounted for, only 1 interception in that period of time.
I'll offer you this, too. And I've said this before. One of my favorite coaches to watch is Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. I just think he's so good at personnel groups and mismatches and the way that he uses motion. Of course, his dad was back in the 90s with John Elway in Denver, so it's no surprise. But I find myself finding San Francisco just to see how he does things. Well, I'm getting the same effect with Doug Peterson now, right? For the first time in a long time, when the Jaguars head coach lines up his offense, he's the one that's dictating to the defense.
Well, there's no question the Jags have guys running wide open more so than they have in any season in recent memory, right? But Trevor Lawrence also had some accuracy issues early in the season, right? And he's really honed his game, and so he's taken advantage of some of the opportunities that were there early on, but I think we're seeing even more and more. And, we talk about why can't this organization scheme players open the way other coaches do? Well, we're seeing where the brain trust of 4 former quarterbacks putting their minds together are able to come up with, and it's been pretty spectacular.
And what we're really seeing is the beginning of what looks like a very successful partnership between Doug Peterson and his quarterback, Trevor Lawrence. We'll talk about all of that. Jaguars and Texans, by the way, 9 straight losses now to the Texans, but I don't recall that being a strong storyline this week. Was it on your show week?
No, the storyline was what are they going to do next week? Yeah, honestly,
right,
I mean, I'm like, there's
is it going to be a Sunday night game
card, but the Titans game obviously carries a bigger weight.
All right, so let's get to the big stories. And by the way, Jaguars Game Day Radio is brought to you by our friends at VyStar. VyStar reminds you to do good and bank better. Let's start with the head coach. His team is in first place by a game over the Tennessee Titans, and that makes them the hunted for the first time instead of that team that's making their way up the ladder and hunting Tennessee. And he said that is not a problem as far as he's concerned.
You kind of want it, honestly. You want it. You want to see how we're going to respond. And, coaches and players. And it just starts in practice, starts today. But, you worked hard to get in this position, and a lot of ups and downs. But you guys have seen the sort of the incremental progress throughout the course of the year, and that's why you play these games, and each game matters. And so, you want to see how the guys will respond in moments like this.
And look, along the theme of every game matters, they're playing to win today. At least that's what they've put out there this week, and all the reporting on the guys that are questionable to play is that they're going to play if they're able to, and that's a sign that they're serious about it. I think having a winning record at the end of the season is important.
Totally agree.
Right? It's important in this locker room. Now, get a couple of key injuries this week, and you may feel differently heading into the Tennessee game because ultimately, while yes, you're still alive for the wild card, you need a lot of things to happen to go your way, but that's not the approach you're taking.
Well, look, if things go well, starting and finishing are two different storylines, right? I mean, if you get a lead and you can pull some of these guys and replace them in the third quarter or into the fourth quarter, and I know that doesn't happen a lot in divisional games, and the way that the Texans have played in recent weeks, you can't really say that, but if the Jaguars could build a lead at some point and pull some guys, get C.J. Beathard into the game in the fourth quarter, that doesn't mean Doug is averse to doing that.
Somebody is streaming this show in Houston right now going, do they realize they've lost 9 in a row? And they're talking about pulling their players in the third quarter because they have such a big lead.
I'm just suggesting the possibility exists that starting and finishing are different.
I feel like we thought they were going to put a beating on the Texans the first time around. That doesn't change my opinion that the Jags are playing much better football than Houston. Houston's game the last few weeks, but I just don't think they have the horses.
No, I don't either. I mean, Damon Pierce isn't here. He had 99 yards the last
Nico
time
Collins
out.
was their leading receiver, only got over 22 yards. He's out too.
There's enough guys in this locker room that recall what happened when the Colts showed up here January 9th last year with a chance to make the playoffs. All they had to do was beat a Jaguars team with an interim coach. So that's not foreign. It's just a storyline. All right, the head coach is done here, and time now for the quarterback, who says the Texans are up next, and the focus is on them.
I mean, no reaction from us. That's kind of what we expected. We know at this point in the season, that's what we expected. That's what we want. And you got to finish strong, and that's the message. And these are 2 division games that we have left. I mean, that doesn't always work out that way. We get to finish with 2 division games, so it's a great opportunity for us. Obviously we lost this team, like I said, a month or 2 months ago, whenever it was. So getting a chance to play them again at their stadium. Haven't beat this team in a while. I've never beat the Texans in the last 2 years, 3 games. So for me, it's a game I definitely want to win, and our whole team feels that way. And it's another opportunity just to show who we are, to put our best foot forward, to play another complete game, to keep this momentum that we have, and if you go out there and lay an egg, no one's feeling good about that, especially heading into the last week. So for us, this game is as big as any game we've played all year, and that's the mindset, and it's a division game, and we're treating it just like that.
You talked about a winning record and the importance, Mike. Also winning the division title. Do you know the last year that the Jaguars beat the Colts, the Titans, and the Texans all in the same season?
Was it 04, 05? 2010. Was it 2010?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a long time.
A lot of streaks lately. It's hard to keep up
and they've
with
been busting
every
them.
single one of them.
Beating the Texans is important for the franchise.
Well, sure it is. It's important for the fan base. I mean, what is the franchise? How much institutional memory is there when you've got a brand new coaching staff and a lot of the players haven't been here for that period of time? But I just think, look, you want to serve notice that you're the team to beat. And I think it's going to be clear going into this offseason that everyone is going to feel that about the Jags, but maybe not if they stumble and, down the stretch miss out on the postseason. Win these next 2 games, you're going to be the unanimous, almost consensus favorite in the AFC South in 2023.
All right, one area that's got to be strong today is the Jaguars' offensive line. And last week we saw Walker Little step into the starting lineup. We've seen changes across the lineup all season long. You have a rookie center, you have a free agent right guard, you have a backup left guard, now you got a backup left tackle. Juwan Taylor's been the mainstay and playing his best football in his 4th season out of the University of Florida. He didn't take the credit, though. He put it on the offensive line coach as the reason why this group is playing so consistently.
No secrets, man. I just think it's the way that, Coach Rosher is with us and the way we prepare as a unit. And we all trust one another. And, we know it's a next man up mentality in this league. So, the guys we have that was backups, the guys we have that were starters, all they're great players, So anytime somebody goes down, we have full faith in their ability to get the job done.
Yeah, look, the offensive line has been very solid this year, Brian. With help from Trevor Lawrence, who's done a nice job avoiding pressure, they have not put him in as much danger as the average quarterback. I mean, they've really had some spectacular games lately where he's only had 1 or 2 times he's even been hit, never mind sacked. Right. So they've done a nice job in that department. The run game has been hit or miss at times this year, but overall, I think if you had asked if you could quantify how well they played and said, would you take that for this year, I think most people would have.
I think they've exceeded expectations. We'll see how they grow. They've got to be able to run the ball, but so far they've exceeded expectations. So, too, in recent weeks is tight end Evan Ingram, who has just become that go-to guy. And he talked earlier this week in the locker room about the coach and the confidence that the offensive players have in Doug Peterson being the guy with a script in his hand on Sunday afternoons.
It's fairly new, uncharted waters for me. Just having a coach, having a game plan, even him, but even the help that he has around him, the staff that he has around him, especially on the offensive side of the ball. It just eliminates an entire thought process. It eliminates a worry. Like, we're going to the game, know our material, and whenever they call it, we trust that it's in the right situations. We trust that it's at the right time. I've been on a place where guys roll their eyes at a certain call, or guys their coaches are on the sideline arguing about, like, it just eliminates a potential distraction. We just go out there and play.
Evan Ingram chose wisely in terms of his destination, right? You had a head coach that had shown an ability to effectively use the tight end position, and as the season's gone on, his role has really expanded to the point where he's been pretty much close to the most productive tight end in the league over the last month. I mean, that includes Travis Kelce in terms of yardage and scoring and everything that it's gone into it. He's become a matchup nightmare. We did on our local show this week, Brian, kind of a poll about who are the three most indispensable players other than Trevor Lawrence for the rest of this year. And I think Evan Ingram's one of those guys.
Yeah, no doubt. And if you'll recall, you and I had this conversation on the Sunday morning of the London game about both Evan Ingram and Zay Jones over the second half of the season. This is where they can impact the offense, and both of them have. You have, and I have to go slowly with this so that it makes sense. In 1993, the first year of free agency, the Dallas Cowboys had 3 free agent acquisitions that all had at least 700 yards of total offense. No one has done that since. The Jaguars this year could be the first team in free agency to have 3 with at least 800 yards of offense: Kirk, Jones, and Ingram. Those 3 guys, but those 2 in particular, Jones and Ingram, over the second half of the season are as good a reason as any as why this offense has found its rhythm.
Yeah, you saw it last week. You can feature Evan Ingram, and he can be the key piece. You saw it against Tennessee the first time around, and I'm sure Tennessee is well aware of that, and we'll see if they're able to do it again next week. But, yeah, he's been fantastic. 800 yards for a tight end is a high
number.
Total in today's NFL.
All right, let's wrap up sounds from around the locker room this week on defense. And you didn't have to go very far to talk the last couple of weeks about what this defense has done right. They've created takeaways. They have 8 in the last 3 games. By the way, the Texans, and the reason they've played well against the Cowboys, Chiefs, and beat the Titans is they have 8 takeaways. But I asked Foye Oluokun this week, when did this turn? When did you guys get it?
It brought us closer. I don't know if things changed, but it really important to everything, important to every practice. We came on off of a good Ravens win, and then we had a good week of practice until the kind of end of the week we started getting comfortable. We went to New York, didn't bring the right energy, got our butts kicked, and anytime I feel stuff sliding, everybody points back to that week where things were going well, and we showed up to Detroit and lost by like 50. So that's 2 ways it could happen. We can either be like the Ravens game or it could be like the Detroit game. Like, choose how you want that week to end up.
Yeah, part of it, too, is taking advantage of your opportunities, right? Because I think every team in today's NFL, and really in football in general, focuses on creating turnovers, right? Tackling ball carriers with a design on stripping the ball, and holding them up, let somebody else take that shot. The Jags have just been paying it off over the last few weeks. They've been taking advantage of those opportunities. But we know the first time around, 2 interceptions by Trevor Lawrence, Texans don't turn it over. That's the recipe for losing to an inferior football team.
Absolutely. Takeaways will be a key part of this one today. All right, up next on the Publix Tailgate Show.
I'm always excited to get here on Wednesday, see what they got for me personally in the game plan. I just know we always have some creative stuff for, everybody.
Well, that's Jamal Agnew, a guy who has been an integral part of the offensive game plan in recent weeks as well. He is a jack of all trades. He is this week's Baptist Health JOI player feature. Plus, CBS Sports senior writer Pete Prisco joins us. The Jaguars and Texans less than 3 hours away. You're listening to the Publix Tailgate Show, hour number 1 here on Jaguars Radio.
you're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help. With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. SMART. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
The original pizza logs are a proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars and available at the stadium on game day. You'll find those delicious gourmet pizza egg rolls at concession stands, clubs, and suites. For all their products, be sure to check out pizzalogs.com and have them delivered right to your home. That's pizzalogs.com.
Put down the burger, put down the dog. Pick up the original pizza log. There's only one. The original pizza log. Yeah.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
Since 1916, Duval Motor Company is here to keep you and your vehicle off the sidelines. Their all-star lineup of dealerships provides superior sales, maintenance, and repairs for every make and model with Ford, Honda, Acura, Subaru, Chevrolet, and everything in between. At every Duval location across North Florida, Duval Motor Company always puts service first. In-store, online, or at your front door. Get service first with DuvalMotorCompany.com.
At most sandwich places, asking for more of something is just part of the drill. But what if you never had to ask for more? What if more was just a given? At Daly's, more is what our sandwiches are built on. More meat, more cheese, more veggies, more quality, more taste. All for a price that's anything but more. Sandwiches from Dash, made fresh. Daly's.
Rolling right along here on Sunday morning, Week 17 in the National Football League. The Jaguars and Texans coming up from NRG Stadium at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Brian Sexton, Mike Dempsey, and the entire crew here with you for hour number 1. JP Shadrick comes along for hours number 2 and 3 before kickoff. Time now, though, for Pete Prisco, and you grab him every week. He's a guy who's followed the franchise since the beginning.
Sure.
I imagine you want to know what he thinks.
I'm wondering if he's penning from Jags to Riches 2 at this point in time.
Did you read Jags to Riches 1?
I lived it. I didn't read it.
You just have it on the shelf.
I'm aware of it. Let's put it that way. I wouldn't, I was waiting for a free copy from either Prisco or Ozier.
Ozier's got boxes of them.
Still waiting
in his garage.
Still waiting, Johnny. Anyway, you and I remarked, hard to believe that they're here right now with a chance to go 6-2 in their last 8 if they win today after starting 2-6. And so wanted to start off with Pete trying to discover if he was surprised that the Jags find themselves in this position after a 2-6 start that included a 5-game losing streak.
Yeah, I am, to be honest with you. And, when you really look back on it, Mike, there should have been more wins. I mean, they blew a couple games they should have won. One against the Texas team they're playing today and another one at Denver. I think they should have won that game as well. So, yeah, Mike, to look at this team right now and see where they're at, controlling their own fate to get into the postseason, who saw that coming in year 2 of the Trevor Lawrence era? I didn't. I thought they would push for 6-7 wins, and they're above that, and they're going to keep going. So, very impressed with what they've done so far, and I'm shocked that they're in this position.
Yeah, it's great. Again, maybe not shocked that they could be, at near 500 this late in the season, but after that 5-game losing streak to turn it around as quickly as they did. And a lot of that's on the play of Trevor Lawrence. Pete, it's been well documented from the point of the Denver game. That interception kind of turned his season around, internalized it, and vowed to be better. So we know Trevor's the most indispensable player to this franchise. Generally, the quarterback is. Tell me, Pete, in your opinion, who is the most indispensable offensive and defensive player other than Trevor Lawrence for the Jags rest of the way? The guy you say on either side, we just cannot lose him if we're going to get as far as possible.
All right, on the offensive side of the ball, I'm going to say it's Etienne. That was Etienne. I think when you look at him, you think he's one of those guys that, yeah, you could replace him with Hasty in a short term, but I think for their success of their running game and the ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, I think he has to be the guy they can't lose going forward on offense. And on the defensive side of the ball, this is going to surprise some people because I think it's Rayshad Jenkins. I think he's been fantastic the last month of the season, but more than that, he's the guy that kind of gets that group going and gets them fired up. He's made everybody else better players. I think he's made Cisco a better player. So I think Jenkins is the guy you could not afford to lose on the defensive side of the ball.
Well, he's been playing great football. The best football he has played in a Jaguar uniform has come in the last month. And Rayshad Jenkins has gone from a guy that I think a lot of people looked at like, wow, we can get some salary cap relief in the offseason if we move on from him, and they're going to need some salary cap relief to, no, we got to find a way to get relief elsewhere. I can't imagine that they wouldn't want to have Rayshad Jenkins back in 2023.
That would be a mistake on their part. The way he's played, and again, the way he rallies that defense around him, I think he's one of those guys that everybody looks to for guidance, and I think he's the one that you should bring back. I'm with you. I thought, early in the season might look at it and say, hey, look, it's a big number. Let's, need cap space, but let's move on from him. But I think there's other ways to go, and he should be back.
All right, let's focus on where the Jags stand right now. We all understand the scenarios, and Week 18 is going to be massive no matter what happens today. But, Pete, let's beat the Houston Texans, for goodness sakes. Doug Peterson is treating this kind of like a playoff game, wants to stay in the mode of I'm not going to rest anybody. And I understand it's weird to talk about resting guys the second to last week of the season, but we all understand the circumstances. Why have the Texans had the Jaguars number for as long as they've had?
Mike, that's a good question. I mean, I don't have the answer to that. And I don't think the Jacksonville Jaguars have the answer to that because they've been better than them. And for whatever reason, every single time they play them, they always seem to have some kind of hiccup. And I think part of the problem is you tend to take a team like the Texans who aren't very good a little lightly, and they've had a lot of young players over the course of recent years that have maybe taken them too lightly, which is why this game doesn't mean a lot to the Jack. It means nothing. Well, it could mean something, but basically right. It means nothing. But I just think that that's why Doug Peterson is doing this kind of thing where he's going to play the guys to go out there and try and win the game. Because, again, the message that Jacksonville's sending is they're on a roll. They're on a run. And if you go to the Texans and lose that game and don't play well, then I think people start questioning them again. And even the Titans would start questioning them again.
Well, let's not leave it to that, Pete. So what are you expecting today?
I think it's going to be close. I mean, history says so. But I think in the end, Jacksonville will find a way to pull it out, even though they don't really need the game. But then again, they could need the game. If Miami loses too, they could need the game. So I think this is one of those scenarios where it's close because of the history and because they're the Texans. But in the end, I think Jacksonville will pull it out, close one, but they'll find a way to win it.
Just find a way to win it, Brian. That's the thing, right? Find a way to win it and come out of it generally healthy.
Can I give you two things? The first is the reason why I believe they've lost 9 in a row. Well, in 18, 19, and 20, the Texans had Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins, and they were a good roster, a playoff caliber team, and this team fell apart, and it wasn't. Last year, we know what last year was, and this year, the 9th straight loss was the quarterback at the 2 number 1 picks, right? The quarterback with his interception in the red zone and Trayvon Walker with his personal foul on 3rd and long. Notwithstanding that, I mean, that they have made enough mistakes against a good football team when the Texans were good that they cost themselves the opportunity to win. The other thing is this game is so similar to a game that the Jaguars played in Houston Christmas Eve 2005. Jaguars had 10 wins then, and they were going for a wild card spot. And the Texans had 2 wins, and they were looking at the number 1 overall pick in 2006, which they ended up getting. And the Texans led that game into the fourth quarter, 20-17. Jaguars scored 3 consecutive touchdowns to win 38-20. But it was a very close game.
Well, you make a good point, too, because the Texans now are in pole position for the number 1 pick, but only by a half game.
Right.
because of their win over the Titans last week. Now, I understand the players on the field, like you saw from the Titans stripped their roster down, but the guys on the field played hard against Dallas on Thursday night. I always expect the players on the field to play hard, but the question is, organizationally,
right,
do they pull back a little bit here in an effort to make sure that they keep themselves in a position where they have their choice of any quarterback in the draft?
To watch C.J. Stroud from Ohio State last night?
Well, that actually helps the case that, you know what, if we need to settle for one of Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, Bryce Young had kind of been the consensus guy, even though it's way early, but Stroud made himself a lot of money.
Well, and I think you also can make the case that there are all sorts of scenarios where you might back up a spot or two, depending on how the draft plays out, if you want C.J. Stroud instead of Bryce
Possibly. The only way, though,
it just gives you options. You want more options.
Is to
be sitting right there.
To be sitting right there at number one.
All right, 100%. Totally agree with that. So just consider it. It will be a close game because it has been a close game. History should repeat itself today in terms of the quality of the game into the fourth quarter. All right, time now for our Baptist Health Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute player feature. And, we've been talking about all the guys who have contributed to the offense, but Jamal Agnew is so much more than a dangerous return man. He can adapt and adjust to any role that the offensive game plan finds for him. His many talents are on display this season as Doug Peterson has found new and different ways to get him the ball. The offense has been good all year, but it's especially good right now. And I asked him when he thought the switch flipped for the Jaguars on that side of the ball.
I feel like we've shown spurts of it all season from week one. Just we're never consistent. And we talked about that all throughout the course of the season. I would say the bye week, really. We obviously played Kansas City right before that. Put some points up on them. Didn't play as well as we wanted to. But I feel like that bye week we kind of seen where we were, where we felt like we should have been. How much stuff we kind of left on the field as far as like turnovers, not connecting on plays, penalties and stuff like that. But I would say the bye week is where like everything started to gel, felt like.
Trevor talked in the postgame the other night about the confidence that the coaching staff has in all of you. Can you put into words the confidence you have in Doug Peterson right now as a play caller? Because it sure seems like right now he isn't a coach that I'd want to coach against.
No, I feel like we're not the team like people want to play right now because we're clicking on all cylinders and we're not playing as good as we feel like we should be playing. We're leaving a lot of stuff out on the field where costly turnovers, but everybody's extremely confident in coach. He's been doing it all year, putting us in good positions to make plays. Trusting the playmakers, trusting our quarterback, trusting the defensive quarterbacks of our defense to go out there and make plays when we need them the most. And we're doing that. I think us playing at a high level kind of helps put that confidence in him to kind of lean on us more than try to out scheme people. I mean, we got a great scheme, but I feel like in this league it's more players and plays. And it's just your big-time players making big-time plays in big moments.
Do you find yourself looking forward to Wednesdays and get your hands on the game plan to see what he's put in it?
Oh, always.
Especially for you.
Yeah, for me, always. Coach is so creative. It's not just Coach Peterson, press, Jim Bob Cooter. He's been around the league for a while. Phil's obviously the run game guru, so we've been running the ball well, all year. Travis, over 1,000 yards. Then he was splitting carries with James in the beginning of the season, so that's crazy. I feel like this is Travis' rookie season. Obviously, he didn't play last year, so I feel like he should be up for Rookie of the Year, but that's just my opinion. But I'm always excited to get here on Wednesday, see what they got for me personally in the game plan. But I just know we always have some creative stuff for everybody. So,
do you have an arm? You think at some point they'll let you throw because you've done everything else?
I mean, I would hope. I've thrown a couple passes in my career. I threw one to Stafford on Thanksgiving. He dropped it. He dropped it in the end zone, but I could throw a little bit, so I would hope so.
This is so much fun for the fans to enjoy. How do you balance enjoying the moment that you're in, because pro football goes by so fast, and then being focused on what's next?
I mean, you obviously enjoy it, but you got to put it to rest because we got a big game coming up this week. Houston. When's the last time we beat Houston in Jacksonville?
The last time they beat Houston at all was 2017.
Exactly. So we got a big game, coming up for us. Obviously we lost to them at home in a game that, was tough. Nobody really scored much, but we didn't play our best at all. We didn't play nearly as good as we imagine. So we got a big test. We're not looking forward. We're not looking past Houston because you look at their last 3-4 games. They've been playing some of the best teams in the league, really tough. Obviously, they just beat Tennessee, but they went to overtime with Kansas City, so we can't overlook Houston at all. They still got some guys who play really hard.
In professional football, I think camaraderie is overlooked. Teamwork sometimes overlooked. How is this locker room? How tight are you guys as this thing goes down the stretch?
This is probably one of the closest teams I've been a part, just, offensively, defensively, special teams. Everybody brings that energy. We got guys who kind of lead that charge, like Arden. You guys probably hear Arden all the time screaming. We just got guys on both sides of the ball who know how to bring everybody together, keep the energy high, keep the juices flowing positively. Even when we weren't winning, we still had guys going around like we're a really good team. Like we just gotta, be consistent. We gotta make plays. We gotta just play a little bit better, work a little bit harder. And it's been like that all year.
Guys are loose. So as a final thought, can you stay loose through these next 2 games with so much on the line?
We definitely feel like we can. We're not putting any pressure on us or any circumstances outside of us. Obviously we control our own destiny, but we got to focus one game at a time. Like I said, we got Houston this week, a team that's playing really hard regardless of their record. I feel like you see a lot of teams with that type of record late in the season not really playing hard. But Houston, they're playing hard on special teams, offense, and defense. So it's just like we can't look past them at all, regardless of the circumstances. We got a tough task this week.
Mike, you lean on what you know, and I've been making the comparison between this team's run and the 96 team because they are similar in so many ways. But the way that strikes me the most this week is how relaxed, how loose they are in the locker room. They're not all bound up by this pressure. And for a young team, I think that speaks volumes about the job that the coaching staff has done.
They've had a maturity about them, and, all of them say that it's one of the best locker rooms they've ever been a part of, Brian. But they were saying all along, look, we really feel like we can turn this around and make a run. And I think players are conditioned to say that. But, as it's played out, you've never seen them waver. And I think now that, kind of the proof's in the pudding, they believed it all along.
Yep, and we'll find out if they can keep it going with a win today against Houston. 15 minutes from now, Tony Buselli and Jeff Lageman join us for first rounds on us from the broadcast booth at NRG Stadium. But first,
I'm thankful for the opportunity, but I never want to see one of my teammates, a guy who I call my brother, go out with something like that and a significant injury like that.
That is Houston native and former number 1 pick of the Jaguars, Caleb Von Chason, whose role will increase starting today. All that and more straight ahead on the Publix Tailgate Show, hour number 1 here on Jaguars Radio.
You're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help. With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
What makes that famous call?
Dinner's ready!
Even better? It's cooking a great meal with natural gas, enjoying faster cooking times and precise temperature control. And now getting a valuable cash rebate up to $300 when you install an energy-efficient natural gas range or cooktop.
Anyone want seconds?
When you show your home love with natural gas, it loves you right back. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softee. For refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softee. The milkshakes and the sundaes and the cones are such a treat. Look out for the ice cream stand, enjoy it from your seat. The creamiest, dreamiest, soft ice cream you get from Mr. Softee. For refreshing delight supreme, look for Mr. Softee. S-O-F-T-E-E, Mr. Softee. The Land Rover Defender story began with the simple thought of creating an exceptionally capable off-road vehicle, becoming the go-anywhere, do-anything all-terrain machine. Today, there's a new Land Rover Defender, the toughest and most advanced Land Rover vehicle ever. From the beginning, Land Rover knew the new Defender was capable of great things. Motor Trend's 2021 SUV of the Year is just the latest example. Test drive the new Land Rover Defender today at Land Rover Jacksonville on Atlantic Boulevard, or go to LandRoverJacksonville.com. Land Rover, above and beyond.
Storm season is here, and JEA is doing everything possible to prepare. We've invested millions in hardening our electric, water, and sewer systems to make them more resistant to extreme weather. By updating your contact information and signing up for alerts, you'll also be better prepared if a storm hits. And in the event we need to restore your power, we can keep you up to date on our efforts and get you back to normal sooner. Update your contact info today at JEA.com. JEA, building a more prepared community.
Welcome back. First hour of the Publix Tailgate Show, brought to you by VyStar Credit Union. VyStar reminds you to do good and to bank better. Jags and Texans coming up from Houston at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. Time now here in hour number one for our weekly commentary from Rick Ballou.
Happy New Year. The Jaguars' playoff push continues today in Houston, and it's more than a push. Let's be honest. They're going to win the AFC South. They're going to host a playoff game here in just a couple of weeks. And if you look at the future, how bizarre is the AFC South? If you're a team not named Jacksonville, you're going to need a brand new quarterback coming up this season. Today's got a little bit of a college feel to it. Houston's going to walk out a couple of quarterbacks. Indianapolis, they absolutely quit. They hired Jeff Saturday. They're trying to win football games now with Nick Foles. Tennessee, since they fired their general manager, they haven't won a game yet. They're the worst offense in the NFL. Mike Vrabel, the exact opposite of Doug Peterson, rested his players this past Thursday night, and he's putting it all on the line a week from Sunday back in Duval against the Jaguars. Now, Jacksonville's going to win the division. A lot of talk about how important today's game is in case there's a wild card opportunity. Forget that. Jacksonville wins today. They win next week here against Tennessee. Doug Peterson, no hesitation at all when asked about playing his players. I'm a little bit concerned about Trevor and Travis, all right? I would take Lawrence out if the opportunity presents itself. Same with Travis Etienne, but I understand what Doug Peterson is trying to do here. It's all about momentum. This thing has been running at a pace that I don't think anyone saw coming, especially after their performance in Detroit. 9-game losing streak on there for the taking today in Houston. It's as simple as that. They're a better team. They should be able to win that game. Injuries is something that Jacksonville has been very fortunate about this season. All of a sudden, it's caught up with them. You lose Cam Robinson. You now lose DeJuan Smoot. It's a battle of attrition, especially when you get into the month of January. Trayvon Walker, Big Foley, both could be back today overall for the Jaguars. It's about survival, and it's about going from week to week. The Jaguars have turned the corner. They are the dominant team in the AFC South today and in the future.
And the Jaguars try to win today without a couple of key contributors. Cam Robinson obviously gone for the season. It'll be the second straight game that Walker Little, Houston native, will take the start for him. Another Houston native, Kayvon Chason, will take over today for DeJuan Smoot. Interesting little side story is that Kayvon and Walker were high school teammates at the Episcopal School in Houston. Now look, Kayvon understands what he's looking at, which is an opportunity to take advantage of a chance after the long injury had him on the sidelines this year to make something of himself here in Jacksonville. And he expects that he will be able to handle the challenge head on.
Man, it's special, most definitely. Definitely just being able to play in front of my family and a lot of friends. And like you said, the significance behind it and to play a meaningful game, and it's something that this team and our coaches have been preaching about since OTAs. So it's really special. I'm excited.
I heard you say earlier this week that you were most excited to be back on the field. How hard was it for you to go through the rehab process and not be able to help this team?
It was difficult, most definitely. Just as being excited and eager as I am, just as a football player, as a competitor. I know just the personal work that I put in the off season to help this team and, to contribute in any way as possible. So to be able, to be held back from physically playing out on the field was definitely difficult, and not be able to share the excitement with my teammates out on the field. But I'm grateful that it was something that I can be able to come back from and continue the season, especially where we are now. I feel like this team, our team, with us losing someone, a significant pass rusher like Duan, I feel like it was just a way that we can all help each other out.
Tell me about that, because it's pro ball. It's about getting the most out of your opportunity. You lose a friend, I'm sure, in Duan, a guy that everyone loves. How do you balance feeling bad about that but being excited about your opportunity?
It's definitely more so. I'm a little more upset, obviously. I'm thankful for the opportunity, but I never want to see one of my teammates, a guy who I call my brother, go out with something like that and a significant injury like that. He's been in my prayers and he's been in my thoughts a lot. With the opportunity I'm given, I'm grateful for it. I definitely feel like it's going to, be a great challenge for me throughout the team as well to contribute. And I feel like I plan on not letting the slack held up.
Do you put any pressure on yourself when you put yourself in that situation to step into his shoes, or is it just who you are and being your best?
It's just me. Every day I come in here, I prepare, even when I wasn't physically able to play. I came prepared. Every day I come in, whether it's in the film room or in the weight room, training room, I prepare like I'm ready to play a 60-minute game, no subs, no anything. So it's just the opportunities come present itself. So now it's all about the time and just helping the team out and, progressing.
It's interesting that last week your former high school teammate Walker Little has the same situation. He steps in to play against the Jets for Cam Robinson, and now here you are a week later. You guys have any conversation about that?
We definitely did. Obviously, just especially Walker, like you said, we kind of grew up in the same hometown. We kind of have some history. So just seeing how he was able to adjust to it and kind of step up in such a short manner of time, but be able to handle it in a well way, it was something that I was actually proud of, and I was just excited to see. And now it's my turn to do the same thing for the team.
This is business, but I can see by the smile on your face you're having fun. It seems like everyone in this locker room is enjoying this moment.
We deserve it, for sure. We deserve it. I was telling a couple guys this yesterday, and just I feel like this is who we are. Earlier in the year, we wasn't playing our ball, we weren't ourselves, but this is who we are. This is no surprise to us. We're right where we belong. But as far as like the smiles, yeah, I feel like we're excited about the opportunity we're given, but at the same time, we're far from done. So we got to attack every day like it's personal. We got to take every day like we behind the 8 ball and we got something to prove.
In 1996, a long time ago, this team started 4-7 and went on a 7-game winning streak that ended in the AFC Championship game in their second season. And a guy named Keenan McCardell, who I know you know, stood at this locker right here and said, "Why not us?" Yeah. Isn't that the same situation you guys are? Why not you?
Literally, why not? We put our pants on the same exact way. We breathe the same exact oxygen as every other man. We get the same 24 hours. So all we have to do is prepare as the best of our ability and give everything we got, and everything else to play in our favor.
The Jaguars have a measure of something that we don't really talk about in the NFL, and that's depth. When you lose Cam Robinson and can plug in a guy like Walker Little, or lose DeJuan Smoot and have a guy to go to in Kayvon Chason, I mean, it's not like you're pulling someone off the practice squad. Now, I get it. He hasn't done a whole lot in his NFL career, but when you look at him, it's hard to see where he couldn't do something, perhaps. Yeah. Maybe this is his reclamation.
I feel like, honestly, that fortunately for the Jags, their depth hasn't been tested that much this year. Hasn't had to, because they've stayed as healthy as they've had. You should have a third tackle that should be able to come in and play somewhat well, especially if you spent a second-round draft pick on him. I wouldn't want to test that premise any further.
No.
From where they are. Shaq Griffin on IR. But they haven't had too many, to overcome this year. Ben Barch, another one. But, compared to a lot of teams, they're in pretty good shape.
And we'll see if Kayvon Chason can overcome the fact that he has not done much in his first 3 NFL seasons. When we return, we go to the broadcast booth. It's time for First Rounds on Us here in the first hour of the Publix Tailgate Show, brought to you in part by our friends at PRI Productions, the official event production company of the Jaguars. They have everything you need to bring your next idea to life. Visit PRIProductions.com, and we're back after this on Jaguars Radio.
You're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
At Tropical Smoothie Cafe, one taste and you're feeling good now, smiling wider now, seeing brighter now, bucket dunking now, namasteing now, popping a wheelie now, living lighter now. You're on Tropic Time now. And on Mondays, try our Jaguars Duval Delight Smoothies for $2.99. And you're roaring louder now, end zone dancing now, sipping spirit now. You're on Tropic Time now at Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
Committed to the team. Committed to the mission. At Navy Mutual, we're committed to providing high-quality life insurance to members of the military and their families. So our policies have no fine print and no military service restrictions. We don't work on commission. We're nonprofit, so we pass the savings along to our members. Because at Navy Mutual, our highest commitment is to you. Visit NavyMutual.org. Navy Mutual, insuring those who serve.
Touchdown at Jaguars away games when you fly nonstop from Jacksonville International Airport. Join the Jaguars in D.C., Los Angeles. Watch them win in Philly, Indy, Detroit, Nashville, New York, and Houston. When you fly nonstop from Jax, on airport parking will punt the stress from your travel itinerary. Garage facilities offer defensive coverage from the weather and are a 50-yard dash from the terminal. Economy parking is just $6 a day. To learn more about nonstop flights and on-airport parking, visit flyjax.com.
This holiday season, unwrap a brand new Dreamfinders home. You'll enjoy everything that makes the holidays merry and bright with family and friends in an expertly built, energy-efficient Dreamfinders home. What could be better than calling one of St. Johns County's magnificent communities such as Shearwater, Beacon Lake, or Silverleaf home as 2022 comes to a close and an exciting new year begins. Plus, with an interest rate lock special from Dreamfinders Homes, the timing is perfect to be in a gorgeous move-in ready home. Happy holidays to all from Dreamfinders Homes. Visit DreamfindersHomes.com.
Hi, Jags fans. Walker Little here for my friends at Kingfish Pest Control. Playing offensive line in the NFL, I must block and protect on every down. When it comes to keeping my home pest-free, I expect that same level of protection. So I contacted Kingfish after seeing thousands of positive online customer reviews about their service. I can confirm from personal experience, bugs don't stand a chance getting past Kingfish Pest Control. Do what I did. Reach out to Kingfish Pest Control to protect your home, a proud partner of your Jacksonville Jaguars.
Final segment of hour number one of the Publix Tailgate Show, brought to you, of course, by our friends at Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. Brian Sexton and Mike Dempsey at TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville, wishing you and yours a happy new year. Time to go a little bit west to Houston and NRG Stadium, where the first rounders are waiting for first rounds on us. Tony Baselli and Jeff Loggeman join us now. And guys, Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
First segment brought to you by UF Health, delivering compassionate care and world-class outcomes. That's our game plan, and finding solutions begins with this question. How do you handle today? Right, the game doesn't have an impact on the playoffs or, well, even really the AFC South race. It's a team that you haven't beaten since 2017. In fact, I don't know that anybody's playing today who's ever beaten these guys. How do you handle this sort of strange scenario that you guys will see today?
Well, it does have an impact in that it's a very slim chance, but the Jaguars could end up gaining a wild card spot with a win today and then a loss against the Titans. Now, it's slim, okay, but it's a chance. But the most important thing is that it's an opportunity at a winning season for this football team and to keep the momentum going into hopefully the postseason. And as a player, that's what you want. I mean, a winning record, playoff berth, and momentum, and that's exactly, if you can get that, everything is golden.
Yeah, I mean, I think you got to, anytime you step on the field, if you're a player or a coach, you have to plan on going full speed to win the game. And so I think the communication to the team is, hey, you play, we go to play to win. Now, if you want to protect guys, take them out. But Doug has said he's not. He's going to play everybody, so you got to go play it like it's the most important game of your life, because I think anything less than that opens you up for all kinds of risk of injury and everything else.
Does that change at all along the way, though, guys? Like if they get up, by a comfortable margin in the second half, or whatever they determine that to be, do you think we will see maybe them treat this game differently? Typically in the NFL, your starters play right to the end, including your quarterback. If the Jags are up by a couple of touchdowns in the fourth quarter, do you think they'll take a different approach?
Absolutely. I think you adjust kind of on the fly. You go in it with the mindset of, hey, look, we're playing to win. But, Mike, if that circumstance were to pop up to where you've got, 2-possession lead late in the ball game, are you going to leave Brandon Sheriff in, who's kind of been struggling? Probably not. Are you going to leave in your quarterback and expose him to injury? Maybe not. Those decisions have to be made. If you get to that point, and hopefully you get to that point. But I don't see that happening. Now, I think this is going to be a tight football game. The Texans have been playing well lately. They're employing a 2-quarterback system that I think will stress this Jaguars defense a little bit. So I don't think we'll get to that point.
What about you, Tone?
Yeah, Mike, I'm with Jeff. That's why I didn't jump in there and add too much right afterwards. I think I would go with Jeff almost 100%. I think you start the game doing everything you can to win. But if you do get a lead where you feel comfortable, then maybe you start resting guys in the second half. But remember, this isn't college football where you got, too deep for everybody.
Sure.
You're probably only going to have 7 or 8 active offensive linemen. So there's guys have to play. You're going to have 2 quarterbacks. You guys get it. So there are limited substitutions you can make during the game, but I think you try to rest key guys if the game gets out of hand either way.
Yeah, and look, the Texans are highly motivated. They've got an opportunity to have a winning record in division. You listen to Lovie Smith for the last week. That's all he's talking about. And look at the way that the Texans have played over the last few weeks against Tennessee and Kansas City and Dallas, and they've been playing good. They're playing better. Lovey's trying to keep a job. Texans players are trying to keep a job. The Texans have won 9 straight against the Jaguars. And I think most importantly for a Jaguars football team, this is a challenging game because, you're going to try not to look ahead. Yes, this game matters, but at the same token, next week matters a whole lot more. And this is going to be kind of a sterile environment here. The Texans are not a good football team. The fan base here in Houston is not excited about where they are or where they're going right now, and so it's not going to be a big crowd. It's going to be weird, as a player, because, you got to fight it. You got to fight that urge to sit there and go, we're looking at next week. But in reality, and there's a lot of circumstances, I think, today that are going to make it very challenging to find motivation. And hopefully this team can show some maturity and play well and beat a division rival.
All right, looking back on the first game between these two teams, Week 5, Jags had not failed to score at least 21 points in each of their first 4 games. Texans held them to what is now still a season-low 6. Why should we expect the Jags to have more success offensively today?
Well, I think, number one, Trevor's playing 100 times better. Trevor is playing high-level football really since going to London. I think, too, Mike, you have Evan Ingram, who's a bigger part of this offense and can impact the middle of the field. Lovie Smith wants to play a lot of split safety looks. Now, he's playing more single high if you watch the last couple of weeks of the tape, but he also, their base coverage is covered too. Well, that means the middle of the field is going to be open. There's some mismatch issues that you can create. And with Evan Ingram playing a bigger role and playing at a high level, I think that leads to, something more production and more opportunities to score.
Well, and you hope that the Jaguars don't stink in the red zone like they did the last meeting. Right. You hope that they don't turn the ball over like they did in the last meeting, because the reality is the Texans have won 2 ball games this year. And in both of those ball games, they've been +2 in turnover differential. That's why we believe up here in the booth that protecting the football is going to be imperative if you want to get a win here in Houston.
Yep.
All right, well, again, first time they played, Dameon Pierce, 99 yards on the ground, by far the biggest offensive cog for Houston. And Nico Collins was the only receiver or tight end to go for more than 22 yards in the game. Both of those guys are on IR. What should the Jaguars defense fear the most from this Texans offense, if anything?
Brandon Cooks. That's about it.
Well, and for me, it's the 2-quarterback system.
Yeah, but that's it. But neither's very good.
No, but I think it can keep you off balance if you don't play the game with awareness. Much like we saw in New York with Strevler that came into the ball game, and that the Jaguars were kind of having a little bit of difficulty adjusting. And so if the Texans do what they've done over the last 3 weeks, they're rotating Davis Mills, who's more of the classic drop-back quarterback, and then they're inserting in Jeff Driscoll, who runs the read option and the read option passing game. Look, I mean, when you have two different quarterbacks, they're running two different systems, it can keep a defense off balance. And the reality is the Jaguars' defense has not been great. Okay, they've been opportunistic. And so to sit there and say, well, the Texans aren't that good on offense, the Jaguars won't have any problem with them. Well, wait a minute. The Jaguars' defense is still trying to find its footing. And then this week, they're going to be missing Smoot, and they're going to get Trayvon Walker back, and he's got an ankle injury. How's he going to be? They're getting Fadakasi back possibly, and he's had an ankle. How's he going to be? So I think that this is not a look, I'd like to be able to say, look, the Jaguars, match up favorably against the Texans, and they're just going to win. It's going to be no doubt. I just can't say that. I mean, the Texans have had the Jaguars' number, and the Texans have been playing well lately. It's going to be a tight football game.
All right, guys, just under a minute left. Each of you, give me an X-factor player that, other than, say, Trevor Lawrence, you think can factor in big in a Jaguar victory today.
I'm going to give you I'm going to say it's the offensive line. I'll let Jeff go to the skill guys or somewhere else. I think Walker Little needs to have a big game.
Because I don't think there's any doubt.
Because the pass rushes for the Texans is underrated, and it's been picking up, and they got after Mahomes. They got after Willis last week in Tennessee. I mean, that's a good pass rush, and I think Walker Little needs to have a good day.
Okay, and I'm going to agree with Tony because number 45 for the Texans.
How you say his name?
And his name is Ogbo Okoronkwo. Okay, where's number 45? And he didn't have a whole lot of productivity earlier in the season. Okay, but this guy in the last 6 games has gotten 4 sacks. He had 2 sacks last week.
A lot of pressure.
He's had a lot of pressure, a lot of hits on the quarterback, and this guy's been causing some problems. He's kind of a late bloomer like Jerry Hughes was when he had to bounce from the Colts to the Bills before he finally found his footing. But Jerry Hughes and this fella Okoronkwo, okay, this is going to be a challenging game for Walker Little. Did I say that right?
You got the last name right. The first name is apparently Obo, though.
It's
Obo.
Obo.
They call him Ogbo in Houston. That's just like they just say for short Ogbo.
No, it's right here, Jeff.
No, I know.
Obo.
They say Ogbo.
No, all right, good luck with that one today, fellas. And have a good broadcast. Happy New Year to all of you, and Mike, to you and your family.
Likewise, Brian.
And I'm going to step aside. JP is on deck. Hour number 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show continues right after this.
You're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help. With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Are you suffering from shoulder pain? If you have clicking and popping in the shoulder joint, persistent pain that intensifies with use, an inability to lift your arm over your head, or a tingling, burning sensation in the shoulder, elbow, or wrist, waiting to see a doctor could make your injury worse. Baptist Health and Jacksonville Orthopedic Institute have innovative and effective treatment options available right now to relieve your pain and restore your mobility. Don't wait. Call 904-JOI-2000.
Frank Frangie here. When you want barbecue in Jacksonville, you want Bono's Pit Barbecue. You can find Bono's locations all around town and on game day at TIAA Bank Field because Bono's is the official barbecue of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Bono's is currently expanding its brand with franchise opportunities throughout the Southeast and beyond. Over 70 years of authentic Southern pit barbecue and owning your own business are a great combo. Go to bonosbarbq.com to learn more or call 904-880-8310 today. And remember, if you don't see a pit, it ain't legit.
Since 1916, Duval Motor Company is here to keep you and your vehicle off the sidelines. Their all-star lineup of dealerships provides superior sales, maintenance, and repairs for every make and model with Ford, Honda, Acura, Subaru, Chevrolet, and everything in between. At every Duval location across North Florida, Duval Motor Company always puts service first. In-store, online, or at your front door. Get service first with DuvalMotorCompany.com.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that could happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone. The results of driving drunk are tragic. That's why law enforcement is out there looking for impaired drivers to save lives. So if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Drive sober or get pulled over.
Paid for by FDOT.
You say there's nothing quite like the feel of the open road when you ride a motorcycle. You know it takes concentration, knowledge, and skills beyond those required to drive a car. Ride Smart Florida would like to take this opportunity to remind you to enjoy the road, but to always ride smart. S-M-A-R-T. Say no to drinking and riding. Make yourself more visible to motorists. Always wear your helmet. Ride in control. Train regularly and get endorsed. Visit RideSmartFlorida.com for more details. Do you ride smart? This message is provided by the Florida Department of Transportation.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues right now.
And Happy New Year. It is hour 2 of the Publix Tailgate Show. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. 2 hours away from Week 17. The Jacksonville Jaguars at 7-8. The Houston Texans 2-12-1. The Jaguars looking to settle a score and continue momentum down the stretch toward an AFC South title. Kickoff at NRG Stadium in Houston coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. We're at the Jaguars Radio Network studio.
We are.
At the bank celebrating the new year, and the Jaguars trying to carry that momentum from the last few weeks and keep things moving in the right direction, building up towards the winner-take-all battle next week here.
Yeah, usually, at least in the last, half decade or so, we've gotten to this point, and we're like, man, can't get this season over with fast enough. JP, not the case now. Let's keep riding that momentum. We want the late 2022 Jaguars to continue to show up here, get to 6-2 in their last 8, and then, of course, have a game, regardless of today's outcome, for the division title next week. Chance to have a winning record, chance to triple your win total, chance to go to the playoffs as a division champ after consecutive years having the number 1 pick in the draft. There's so many, carrots nudging the Jags along here. Let's hope they take advantage.
Let's get to some of today's top stories, and starting with head coach Doug Peterson keeping the team focused on 1 week at a time. On the Doug Peterson Show Thursday evening, he hearkened back to the final game of last season when the Jaguars spoiled the Colts' chances.
We understand what this team did to us the first time around, Week 5. It was a 13-6 ball game, and I also got to remind our team that we're different. We're a better football team now, here in the month of December than we were in Week 5, and so you're hoping that things go a little bit better this time around. But the biggest challenge is to keep guys focused on this week, not looking into next week, and it's a good football team and a team that is kind of dangerous, because they're not playing for anything, and I had to remind the team of just a year ago. They spoiled the hopes of a Indianapolis Colts team that came in here and, lost a football game to miss out on the postseason.
And the Texans are playing hard lately. They've been close in games against Dallas and Kansas City, and then they've, of course, knocked off Tennessee last week in Nashville. So they're hanging around in these games, but they are undermanned right now. They've got a bunch of key pieces on injured reserve. So you got to take this team seriously because they are still playing hard, even with the personnel they have.
Right. I kind of compared it to what Tennessee did against Dallas on Thursday night because they stripped down the team, but the guys that are on the field have to play hard. Hey, you're trying to avoid injury. This is your resume every game you play.
Pro football player.
Right. Now, it's interesting, though, listening to Leon Searcy this week on 1010XL say, back in the 90s, he'd have guys calling him with 2 weeks to go like, hey, Searce, man, all I'm trying to do is not get hurt these last couple weeks. So there is some of that dynamic that happens, that with guys. JP, I know Tony and Jeff were talking about how much Houston has to play for. What they also have to play for is not playing themselves out of the number 1 pick in the draft. And organizationally, I'm not sure they want to win this football game today. Now, the players on the field will be playing hard. I'm sure the coaching staff will be coaching hard. It'll be a question of who's on the field at any given time. That's the way you kind of massage that because as well as C.J. Stroud played last night, whether it's Bryce Young or C.J. Stroud, you still, as the Texans, want your choice of any quarterback in the draft next year. And right now they're in a position to get that. They might not be if they win a game or two down the stretch.
Boy, how about, by the way, both those quarterbacks played very well yesterday in their respective games.
Right. Well, I mean, it had been almost accepted gospel that Bryce Young was the number one pick in the draft next year. C.J. Stroud said, not so fast. I mean, was fantastic against that Georgia defense last night.
And Bryce Young put up 5 touchdowns in their game in the Sugar Bowl.
K-State.
How about that? That's K-State. Whatever. All right, moving along now to the Jaguars quarterback and the number one pick from 2 years ago, Trevor Lawrence. He knows this Jaguars team still has to finish this thing out the right way, and that starts today in Week 17.
We can't act like we've arrived, though, because we still haven't clinched anything. We still haven't made the playoffs. We have 2 games left to continue to prove who we are and to put one foot in front of the next and to just keep stacking these games. So we can't look too far ahead and say this is the team we are now. We have to do it every week. You're only as good as what you can do every Sunday. So, I mean, that's really for us, it's just about being consistent, continuing to do this. And that's what great teams win these games. Games that you got to win, you win them. And that's what we're trying to become as a great team. And I think we're on our way, but we got to keep doing this consistently. And I got to keep doing it too as the quarterback and as a player on this team. Like, it's all about consistency.
Jags tight end Evan Ingram says they're aware of the big picture, of course, but the focus lies in the locker room.
Our focus isn't here. Our focus stays right here. All the outside narratives, all the stuff, we'll keep our eye on, but our focus is here, and we're in control, and that's all that matters. So we can't really afford to wander and think about all that. We're staying in here, stay locked in.
Yeah, so they are in control. That's the key piece of this thing. They have been in control for the last week or so. It's coming into focus week after week, though.
It is, but I think that is why they're having success, because they've kept it internalized and they haven't gotten ahead and started looking, oh, man, what about the Titans game next week? What about this? What about all these things coming up? Let's try to win a football game. The one week they lost focus, they got exposed against Detroit, and that probably showed them that you don't get too impressed with your press clippings at this stage of the season. The Jags are playing their best football, but the reason is they focused on the fundamentals. They focused on that locker room. They'll continue to do that. I really don't think they can lose this game if they don't lose a turnover battle significantly today.
Let's rewind back to Week 5, a 13-6 loss to the Texans for the Jaguars. The Jags offense moved the ball over 400 yards of offense, but 0 for 3 in the red zone that day. There's one that stands out for offensive coordinator Press Taylor, of course, in that game.
The first play I think of, obviously, is the turnover in the red zone. You cannot ever take off an opportunity to get points on the board. If that drive stalls out, you're kicking a 32-yard field goal, getting 3 points, which in a game like that was kind of a slugfest there, that's what you need. You need every point. And so we took points off the board. We took an opportunity to get points off the board there. So that's the first thing you think of. But then you just go through and you watch just some little miscues, whether it was we barely missed a pass, we dropped a pass, we were wrong on a progression, we were slow on a progression. Whatever that may be, it just feels like that was a long time ago. We've grown a lot since then.
Well, it feels like it because it was a long time ago in the grand scheme of this season and in the progression of this team. That seems like ages ago as well.
Well, and in the maturation of Trevor Lawrence, right? That interception by Derek Stingley was one that was matched by Pat Surtain with the Denver Broncos in London, and you wondered, has Trevor learned from his mistakes? And from that point forward, he really has, and that has been a turning point for the season. But that was the first big one that we pointed to. And, yeah, if you don't turn that ball over, who knows, that game maybe goes completely differently. But you did, so you got to avoid that today.
All right, facing the Texans offense today for the Jaguars defense, the Texans have used a couple of quarterbacks recently, Davis Mills, Jeff Driscoll, and defensive coordinator Mike Caldwell has plans for both.
You really have 2 game plans. When 6 is back there or 10 is back there, just understand who's back there, what they like to do out of certain formations, what they like to do when one quarterback's in, or if the quarterback's split out. Is he a threat or is he not a threat? So just different ways that they try to affect the defense, but we'll have a plan for both guys and go out and try to execute it.
That's kind of what it's come down to Houston now. They've got to kind of trick this thing out and massage what they can out of this offense.
Well, the Jags should be used to it, right? Chris Streveler off the bench last week. I don't think they were quite ready for that, and it worked to pretty good effect. This time they're going to be prepared for it, and next week you may get something along those lines as well with Joshua Dobbs. Clearly the better passing option, but why not throw the kitchen sink at Jacksonville if you're the Tennessee Titans with Malik Willis's ability to run the football? Dobbs is a mobile guy as well. So this could be 3 consecutive weeks where the Jaguars are facing that kind of dual quarterback system, and, more exposure to it should work to their advantage.
Outside linebacker Kayvon Chaisson should see more defensive time today after the injury to DeJuan Smoot, and after a knee injury put him on IR early in the season. Chaisson, that is. He's excited to be back and contributing, not just on special teams.
I'm excited, most definitely, but at the same time, we got to keep our composure. We got to play this game. The ultimate team goal is, to get the win. Throughout the week, we can't get catch any more L's. So it's definitely exciting, just the opportunity that I'm given. But like I said, I'm just happy to be back out on the field, man. Just something, like I said, it could have been much worse than what it is. So to have a minor injury like that and to be touching the field again, it's exciting.
He'll play a home game today. He's from the Houston area, and obviously since he's returned, been playing a role as a core 4 special teams guy, and we'll see what he has. I mean, first-round pick, hasn't lived up to that level of expectation, but he's got an opportunity now the last couple games.
Yeah, it's up to him to take advantage of it. I'm honestly not going to hold my breath for a major defensive impact because he hasn't given us that. He hasn't given the Jaguars organization that in his time here. He has been playing well on special teams, and I hope he plays fantastic. Maybe it is this more playing time with Smoot coming out that's going to spark things for Kayvon, but we haven't seen it really to this point in his career, so let's hope we get it down the stretch here.
Jaguars Game Day Radio is brought to you by ViStar Credit Union. Do good, bank better. And it's time to hear from pride of the Jaguars running back Fred Taylor. And I asked Fred this week about the Jags offense that's now ranked 6th in total offense in the National Football League.
I want to go back to the beginning. At the very beginning of the season, they realized they had number 1 pick from a year ago in Trevor Lawrence. They said, what are we going to do? Let's go out and find the best available coach for Trevor Lawrence. They kind of sprinkled Byron Leftwich in there. A few other people were, sprinkled at a few rumors of who would come in. And then ultimately they found a former quarterback, former Super Bowl winning champion coach. And it has been the best hire, in most recent history, Jaguars history, that is, and bringing in Coach Peterson to lead and develop Trevor Lawrence. So I think you start there with Trent, with Shad, and everyone that was involved in the hiring process. So it's been a pretty good marriage to date. But in terms of everything you just said and echoing that, JP, you have guys that they brought in the offseason, and Evan Ingram, Christian Kirk, Zay Jones. Each of these guys are 60-plus reception guys. So they've also come in here in 1 year. In less than a year, actually. And they've changed the whole dynamic, the whole outlook of the Jaguars offense. And it's paid off. It certainly paid its dividends. Great moves across the board by Trent. So I want to give him credit when credit's due, because he got beat up in the offseason a whole lot. But to come back and put together an offense that's ranked in the top 10 in the league statistically, it says a lot to him. His conviction, what they believe in, the guys they put around Trevor and Trevor's development, how well he's worked with Coach Peterson, and the offensive line, the tremendous job that they've done this year in terms of keeping Trevor clean and minimizing those sacks, the sack output. I think they've done a great job across the board in the front. Travis Etienne coming back from injury. So there's so many people I want to just give flowers to and shouts out to. But ultimately, they've played well together this year.
That's Fred Taylor, of course. The full conversation now on the official Jaguars Podcast Network, or visit Jaguars.com and click the podcast link at the top of the homepage. We're about 15 minutes away from the Inactives for today's game. Up next, though, it's CBS Sports announcer Andrew Catalon on the Jaguars' ascension to the top of the AFC South. It's a 1 o'clock kickoff time Eastern in Week 17 for the Jaguars and the Houston Texans. And this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
You're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Storm season is here, and JEA is doing everything possible to prepare. We've invested millions in hardening our electric, water, and sewer systems to make them more resistant to extreme weather. By updating your contact information and signing up for alerts, you'll also be better prepared if a storm hits. And in the event we need to restore your power, we can keep you up to date on our efforts and get you back to normal sooner. Update your contact info today at JEA.com. JEA, building a more prepared community.
The Land Rover Defender story began with the simple thought of creating an exceptionally capable off-road vehicle, becoming the go-anywhere, do-anything all-terrain machine. Today, there's a new Land Rover Defender, the toughest and most advanced Land Rover vehicle ever. From the beginning, Land Rover knew the new Defender was capable of great things. Motor Trend's 2021 SUV of the Year is just the latest example. Test drive the new Land Rover Defender today at Land Rover Jacksonville on Atlantic Boulevard, or go to LandRoverJacksonville.com. Land Rover, above and beyond.
We've spent a lot of time in our homes.
I'm on a Zoom call.
Dinner's ready.
But we've learned that when we love our home, it loves us right back. Now you can keep that love going when you install energy-efficient natural gas appliances and earn up to $1,925 in cash rebates. You'll love endless hot water, faster drying and cooking times, and ongoing savings and comfort. To learn more and how to qualify, visit peoplesgas.com/rebates.
Veterans, you may have earned a variety of VA benefits. Did you know VA can help you further your education and pursue professional training? The Home Loan Guarantee Program can help you buy, repair, or adapt a home. VA provides housing support if you find yourself homeless or at risk of homelessness. And don't forget world-class health care. Learn more about these and other VA benefits. Visit choose.va.gov.
Unlock your potential at the University of North Florida. A top public university with more than 100 majors, UNF is #1 among state schools for the highest percentage of graduates employed in Florida. Affordable tuition, programs in high-demand fields, and faculty who care. Swoop into your future at UNF. Visit unf.edu to learn more.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey. The Publix Tailgate Show continues. We're inside 2 hours from Week 17, and the Jaguars at 7-8 meet the Houston Texans at 2-12-1. Kickoff at 1 o'clock at NRG Stadium in Houston. Let's go around the National Football League, Mike, in Week 17.
All right, here we go, JP. We know the AFC South title will be on the line next week when the Jaguars host the Titans, but 4 teams can clinch playoff berths today. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers have one of the clearest paths as they only need to defeat Carolina, and in doing so, they would clinch the NFC South crown. Carolina would be in the driver's seat if they win that game, but they would not have clinched yet. The New York Giants would also get in as a wild card simply by beating the Indianapolis Colts today. There are other paths that can get the Giants qualified if they lose, but a little bit more complicated. Meanwhile, Washington in the NFC, Miami in the AFC can also clinch wild card berths, but each needs to win and have a few other outcomes go their way. For the Jaguars fans out there, you should be rooting against the Dolphins and the Jets today, as losses by those teams would still keep the Jags wild card viable heading into Week 18. Despite remaining mathematically alive for a playoff berth, the Las Vegas Raiders have decided to bench quarterback Derek Carr and roll with journeyman Jarrett Stidham today when they host the San Francisco 49ers. That ought to go well. The Raiders will reportedly try and trade Carr quickly this offseason for more than $40 million of additional dollars in his contract become fully guaranteed. Meanwhile, the Arizona Cardinals will start their 4th quarterback of the season when veteran David Blau opens up under center against Atlanta this afternoon. With Kyler Murray done for the year, Colt McCoy in the league's concussion protocol, and third stringer Trace McSorley ineffective last week, Blau becomes the 64th different quarterback to start a game this season, which matches the NFL record set in 2007 for a non-strike year. At one point this past off-season, former Jacksonville offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett was scheduled to interview for the Jags' at that time vacant head coaching position. Instead, the Denver Broncos hired Hackett to be their head coach the day before he was set to meet with the Jaguars' brain trust. Unfortunately for Hackett, he didn't make it through his entire first season as he was fired after a 4-11 start capped by a 51-14 loss to the Rams last Sunday. Senior assistant Jerry Rossberg serving as the Broncos' interim coach for the remaining 2 games of the season. San Francisco 49er quarterback Trey Lance reportedly underwent successful surgery on his right ankle this week. That was the second procedure Lance has had done since breaking that ankle in the preseason. This time, doctors removed hardware that was inserted during the initial surgery in September. Lance is expected to be cleared by the time 49er OTAs roll around. Finally, Atlanta Falcons practice squad wide receiver Cameron Batson was arrested early yesterday morning after allegedly fighting with police following a traffic stop and fleeing the scene. According to a release from the Atlanta Police Department, Batson was pulled over around 2 a.m. Saturday after speeding and failing to maintain his lane on an interstate. Police said Batson was deemed intoxicated by an officer before the situation turned physical after the wide receiver allegedly resisted arrest. Probably not the best way to hang on to your practice squad designation right there.
Probably not. And by the way, Nate Hackett had a 4-year deal as the head coach of the Broncos. And yes, I'm sure he's disappointed, but he has a 4-year guaranteed deal, and he's going to get all that money unless he lands another gig.
Well,
and he's been
if
in
I'm
this
Nate
league
Hackett, my next gig will be as the college offensive coordinator somewhere. We're all
Right.
double dip on that salary. Keep taking that NFL money and get another salary on top of it.
Or get a nice place in Key West for a year and hang out.
And dip your toe in the water.
Which has been done before. By the way, if you're looking for the MVP of the truck game, then look no further than Ford F-150, loaded with impressive capabilities and designed to dominate work, play, and everything in between. This truck makes tough look easy. Your local Ford dealer, proud partner of the Jags. Andrew Catalan has the call of today's game on CBS Sports, and I asked him this week about the approaches of Titans coach Mike Vrabel and Jags coach Doug Peterson in playing or not playing key players back this week in Week 17.
And I think it makes sense what both teams are doing. I have been with Tennessee the last 3 weeks. I mean, they've been barely able to field a roster with all the injuries they have. Obviously, Ryan Tannehill at the top, but Danico Autry, Jeffrey Simmons, Christian Fulton. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. And they are in a position where they cannot afford to lose anybody else. They have to try to get guys as healthy as they'll be to ensure they have a complete roster for Week 18. So I get what they're doing. My first impression was that Jacksonville should do the same thing, but after listening to Doug Peterson this week and hearing him talk about a younger team with momentum, I understand it from their perspective as well. Now, I want to see how this game is called. Like, Trevor Lawrence has been running a lot lately. If I'm the Jaguars, I'm not doing that as much in this game because I really think it's a far-fetched reality that they're going to lose this game or win this game and then still get in the playoffs as the wild card after a loss Week 18. I think it's all going to come down to Week 18, and they have to be in the best possible position to win that game, which is continuing momentum but also staying healthy.
It is fascinating, the whole setup going into this. I don't think I've ever heard of one where Week 17 doesn't matter and only Week 18 matters. This is a new one for me. And I think for a lot of people, certainly the Jaguars haven't been to the playoffs in 5 years, but I don't remember one. Do you remember one like this?
No, this is definitely strange. And, you know, no one's really going to remember the Week 17 game as much as the Week 18 game, which is interesting. But I do think there's things they can build on. I do think that keeping timing and rhythm with wide receivers is something important. But again, I think Tennessee's just in a different position than Jacksonville is in terms of the health of their roster. And that's why I think we're seeing two different things. I think if Tennessee was healthy and Vrabel felt a little bit better about where they are in terms of their depth, maybe you'd see Derrick Henry play a half, or maybe you'd see Jeffrey Simmons play a quarter. But they're just not in a position to do that right now.
Andrew Catalan with us. Of course, the Jaguars and the Texans this week. Texans have have been playing hard, at least for Lovie Smith. It feels like the last month or so. They finally got a win, of course, last week in Nashville. So they're beat up also. They're starting running backs out. They got a wide receiver out. Stingley's out. I mean, it's just what it is. We know what that feels like at the end of a season that's lost and you're number one in the draft order with 2 weeks to go. Hopefully we don't have to feel that again here in Jacksonville for a long time. But what do you make of this Texans group, at least still out there fighting and in games late in this season?
Yeah, I've been impressed. I mean, I was with them last week in Nashville when they beat Tennessee. And then you look at the prior 2 games, they should have won at Dallas, and they should have beat the Chiefs at home. They ended up losing in overtime. Lovie Smith has found a way to get these guys motivated down the stretch, and I give him a lot of credit. Obviously, the record is what it is, but he's had this thing where he's been preaching that we can, quote-unquote, win the division by finishing on a winning note, because right now they are 2-1-1 in the division, and they finish with Jacksonville and that Indianapolis. And he's telling his guys that if we finish 4-1-1 in the division, that's going to give us some positive momentum going into the offseason. Whether or not you and I believe that, it doesn't matter, because it seems like the team is rallying around that. A lot of their guys are playing on one-year contracts. So they're playing for either another deal with Houston or another team. Davis Mills is trying to prove that he can be the starter. Lovie Smith is trying to prove that he should get another year as head coach. So while on the surface it doesn't look like they have much to play for, in reality, these guys are playing for a lot, and it's showing up. They really played a nice game against Kansas City and could have won that game. And I think that they're going to play really hard again here against Jacksonville.
Yeah, combined 10 points in the 2 losses to Dallas and Kansas City for this Texans team. Then they go out and beat the Tennessee Titans. All right, so big picture now. It's funny how fast this can change the perception of teams in a division. So in October, you would have said, oh, okay, well, the quarterback's young. They're not winning games. They're losing these one-score games. Now, all of a sudden, fast forward a month and a half later, Jags are in first place. The Colts have their own issues, obviously, with what's going on with the head coaching situation, quarterback, roster. Houston, you'll see firsthand this week what's going on there. And then Tennessee doesn't have a GM right now, and the running back's, 29 years old. How long can that last? The Jaguars are poised, at least right now, but they can control this thing for a little while here if they get their act together and get the roster right and figure some things out and move ahead.
No doubt. I mean, there's a lot of questions in those other 3 buildings in the division, especially in Tennessee with the quarterback, because Ryan Tannehill is set to make a lot of money next year. I don't know how that's going to shake out. As you point out, they don't have a general manager right now. I really like the core of this Jacksonville team, and I really like Doug Peterson. I had never done one of his games when he was in Philadelphia. I'd never met him until the Vegas game this year. I'm really impressed by him, and I think he is a really spectacular guy to be for Trevor. I mean, you've heard Trevor say that he can relate Doug's calmness, the way he doesn't get too high or too low. I really like this marriage between the two, and I know I've said that already, but I think this is going in the right direction. Between free agency and the draft, they can get a little bit better here and there, and I think this is a team that should be competing for playoff spots for several years to come based on the way it's all coming together this year.
That's our good friend Andrew Catalan of CBS Sports with a call of today's game. And check out the official Jaguars Podcast Network. You'll get the full conversation with Andrew there. It's free on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you download podcasts. Also on Jaguars.com. Just click the podcast link at the top of the homepage. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we'll get a fantasy forecast. And Frank Frangie in the broadcast booth. Up next, though, Inactives and a pregame huddle up podcast with Bucky Brooks and John Oehser in Houston. We're about an hour and a half away from the Week 17 kickoff. The Jaguars and the Texans coming up. And this is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
You're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help. With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Brooks Rehabilitation is hiring nurses who want to be empowered as advocates, educators, care coordinators, and leaders in exceptional patient care. They have open RN, LPN, HHA, and CNA positions across their inpatient, skilled nursing, and home health care settings. Join their nationally recognized team, where you'll serve as a central team member doing what you do best, providing exceptional patient care. Apply at careers.brooksrehab.org.
Nothing kicks off your game better than a handful of Georgia peanuts. Power-packed with protein, essential nutrients, and great taste. Georgia peanuts are the MVP for affordability, sustainability, and nutrition. To score life's touchdowns with recipes and fun facts, check out GAPeanuts.com. The perfectly powerful peanut is brought to you by the family farmers of the Georgia Peanut Commission. Peanuts, get your peanuts. Decisions are a part of our everyday life. Whether you're building a football team or building your education, your success is built on the decisions you make. So choosing J-Tech as your career training destination should be a no-brainer. With small class sizes, dedicated instructors, job placement assistance, and financial aid available for those who qualify, J-Tech is praised as a good choice by our graduates. Learn how you can build your career the right way by visiting jtech.org for more information. Headquartered in Jacksonville, Florida, CSI Companies partners with leading organizations across the country to deliver workforce solutions. As a proud sponsor of your Jacksonville Jaguars, CSI crafts personalized operations to fuel the success of businesses, both big and small. Whether it's finding the right talent for a job or seamlessly managing a project from start to finish, CSI has over 3 decades of experience in getting the job done. This is your Workforce Solutions Reimagined. Visit CSICompanies.com.
At most sandwich places, asking for more of something is just part of the drill. But what if you never had to ask for more? What if more was just a given? At Daly's, more is what our sandwiches are built on. More meat, more cheese, more veggies, more quality, more taste. All for a price that's anything but more. Sandwiches from Dash, made fresh. Daly's.
JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. The Jaguars at 7-8. The Houston Texans at 2-12-1. They're playing at NRG Stadium in Houston today, and the kickoff time 1 o'clock Eastern. Let's get to the inactives. They have been announced. We'll start with the Jaguars. 5 players down today. Wide receiver Kendrick Pryor is out. Cornerback Tavon Campbell is down. Cornerback Monteric Buster Brown is down today. Deshaun Dixon, outside linebacker, inactive. And defensive lineman Jeremiah Ledbetter is out today. The Jaguars used a standard elevation on Coy Cronk, offensive lineman. He is active for the game today. And also a name you didn't hear on that list is Ross Matisic, the long snapper who's been on the injury report with a back issue all week. They brought up and actually signed a veteran long snapper to the practice squad. But it sounds like Matisic's going to give it a go today, which is good news for the operation.
Yeah, and if there was any doubt what the Jags had said about, playing to win and all that, and you're thinking, all right, maybe the fudge factor comes in on guys who are a little bit banged up that are important to this team, but Brandon Sheriff, Trayvon Walker, Foley Fatukasi, all up and playing today.
All on the report, too, this week.
Right. 5 guys inactive officially for the Houston Texans. Quarterback Kyle Allen has actually started a couple of games for them, will not be playing. Kobe Francis, a defensive back, defensive lineman Thomas Booker, offensive lineman Jimmy Morrissey, and tight end Tegan Quitoriano are the 5 Texans unavailable.
All right, the inactives are in. Let's go to NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, and welcome in Bucky Brooks and John Ozier. This is a pregame Huddle Up podcast. And Bucky's actually part of this one, John. He was not on with us on Wednesday. It's amazing.
Yeah, I've introduced myself to the Bucky, I believe his name is. I'm looking forward to working with him today and just seeing what this guy's all about. It's going to be cool.
It's going to be a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
It's a strange one, right? I mean, because there are some things still out there for the Jaguars this week. There's the backdoor wild card possibility if some things happen this week and next. That they need this game to have that a possibility. And if they happen to tie next week against Tennessee, they need this game today to fall back on. So there's that. But it's all the marbles next week. So there, in theory, could be a little bit of let up. But that's, I think, what Doug Peterson's been trying to fight against throughout the week, is to keep this team poised and ready for this game, Bucky. So I guess we'll find out pretty quick if they're into it or not today.
Yeah, I think we'll find out really quickly. But I think the one thing that Doug Peterson has tried to impress upon the team is focusing on what's right in front of you. Part of this season has been learning how to win, and there's been a process that the team has adopted in terms of getting ready to win. And so when you have a process that the team is beginning to take to, you don't want to change that. And so the team has done a really good job of focusing on the week is at hand, the opponent that's at hand, and not looking too far down the road. And so what you want to see is the maturity of the Jaguars. Can they take care of business without kind of peeking ahead and worrying about the Titans and what could happen next week?
Yeah, I think if it was a different stage of this team's development, you might approach it differently. But as I said a couple of times this week, they've only been good for about a minute and a half. I mean, the team is still if you think about it, until the fourth quarter against Dallas, which was 2 weeks ago, nobody really had a feel that this team was going places. So you had beaten the Titans, but once they beat Dallas, then you said, okay, now they're going, now you feel good. Well, you don't want that to go away. And plus, Mike this week, on Wednesday when we spoke, really kind of opened my eyes to it. That wild card thing is not that out there. Miami has to lose twice and 2 is out. Mm-hmm. The Jets have to lose to Seattle. All those scenarios, is it probable that they all happen? Okay, probably not. But if you take them individually, the favored team, it favors the Jaguars in that situation. So until that's closed, go after it.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree, John. And the only 2 outcomes you need other than a victory for the Jags today are Miami and the Jets losing, and that keeps the Jags wild card viable going into Week 18. A loss by Pittsburgh would help as well because they have to drop one of their last 2. But you look at the last few weeks for both of these teams, Jacksonville and Houston, they both created a lot of turnovers. But barring that from the Texans, Bucky and John, I'm not seeing too many paths for them to realistically beat this team. They won the turnover battle the first time, particularly got the big one in the end zone, and outside of that, Jags moved the ball up and down the field on them, just couldn't put points up.
Yeah, but I think in saying that, it's kind of being dismissive of the Texans and the way they played the last few weeks. This is a team that has gone toe-to-toe with some of the better teams in the league. And so if you're the Jaguars, you want to give them your full attention. And also the fact that you haven't knocked off this team. You lost a lot of games in a row to this team. And for Trevor Lawrence in particular, Lovie Smith and his defense has kind of been confusing, even though it's a very simplistic scheme. And so this will be a test of the quarterback's patience and discipline, and it'll be a test of the Jaguars' ability to score touchdowns in the red zone. The Texans concede yards between the 20s, but they're pretty good down in the red zone where the field gets tighter. So can Trevor Lawrence exhibit the patience to play against this style of defense and find a way to defeat it?
Yeah, it's sort of rare when you go into a game sort of knowing exactly what the key is and having no doubt about it. All you got to do is look at that first game. I think it was 422 to 248 or something like that in total yardage. And I had sort of forgotten until this week, once I went back, how much the Jaguars truly dominated a game.
Yeah.
And still only scored 6 points and lost 13-6, and it was weird at the end. And then the Texans got one drive. It seemed like it took like 17 minutes. It wasn't that long, but it took forever. And all of a sudden the game was almost over. It was 5 minutes, and it was down to a one-series game. And that's what the Texans want. So I think it's a big game for Trevor Lawrence in that sense. You can markedly show you're a better player, you're a more advanced quarterback, and more able to handle situations. No better time to show it than against a team that you haven't beaten yet, haven't played well against, and you know exactly how you have to play. There's no mystery here.
Mm-hmm.
You have to score in the red zone and play good against cover 2 to win this game. That's Trevor's task.
John Oehser and Bucky Brooks joining us from NRG Stadium, Houston, Texas, where the Jaguars and the Texans will meet in Week 17 coming up at 1 o'clock Eastern today. The Jaguars' defense is without Dewan Smoot. He has an Achilles injury, and he's done for the season. So, he was the guy who led the team in sacks, going with 5 sacks this season, and was a great piece of that rotation up front. He was versatile, Bucky, so how do they fill that spot today? For a lot of folks who might not follow the team on a week-to-week basis, they may not think that's a big deal, but he was a big piece of what they did up front.
He's a big piece of what they did because of his effort, his energy, and then his effectiveness. This is a guy to play it hard, man. When you watch Dewan Smoot, he gave everything. He emptied the bucket. And so now you're going to need multiple guys to kind of step into that role. I think Arden Key gets more time and plays a more prominent role when it comes to pass rushing. Trayvon Walker has to step up and be a factor. Even though he's not a polished or an accomplished pass rusher, he has to do something where he impacts the game. And then it's about the collective effort. How does Josh Allen play? Because you still need him to step up and play at a higher level. And so it has to be by committee. Everyone has to step up and kind of pitch in a little more. But this is a front line that has to wear the big sombrero. They have to play well for the Jaguars to go as far as they can go.
I'm a big Smoot fan. I think I would be really worried about this if Trayvon Walker wasn't getting back. And I have a gut feeling on Trayvon that the 2 weeks out may have come at the right time. I don't think he wanted a break. The team wasn't going to give him a break. But the ankle being out, now he comes back with a little bit of a rest. I think he plays better and makes up for most of what Smoot's going to be out. I also think Kayvon Chason's a fascinating watch here because I don't think he's ever going to be a huge sack guy, but it is a chance for, remember, a first-round talent. Mm-hmm. I don't think he has to live up to first-round talent to necessarily help them through the loss of Smoot. So I think they've got their pieces to do it, and I'll be watching to see if they can do it.
All right, Trevor Lawrence, most important player on this team, obviously. Who is the one other player that is most indispensable for the rest of this season, John and Bucky?
I'm going to go to running back.
Go ahead, Buck. It's your show.
Yeah. Okay. All right. This is my show. I'm going to take the lead. I'm going to go with Travis Etienne. And the reason why is because you're not going to be able to advance far in the postseason or otherwise without having a balanced offensive approach. It doesn't mean that Travis Etienne has to have 100-yard on the ground, but you would like to get to the point where each and every week when you look at the total, he finishes with 100-plus scrimmage yards, any combination of rushing and receiving. If he's able to be a factor where you have to defend him, then it creates opportunities for the wide receivers, Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, Christian Kirk, and Evan Ingram to get loose because you have to put a little extra attention in the box.
What threw me there was I was going ETN too, so I had to sort of adjust. So I'm a little thrown right now.
You want another one?
For the case of this, I'll go Evan Ingram because he's played so well. You know, I don't know that there's any of those three receivers, meaning Jones, Kirk, and Ingram, that is that much more important than the other guy. But I don't want to lose any of those guys because that rotation has really worked, and it's straining defenses right now, having to account for all three of those guys.
All right, gentlemen, well done as always. And, of course, the Huddle Up podcast each Wednesday on Jaguars.com. Enjoy the game, guys. We'll talk to you.
Guys, thank you.
John Oehser and Bucky Brooks from NRG Stadium in Houston. And Jaguars Game Day Radio is brought to you by ViStar Credit Union. Do good, bank better. And we're inside 20 minutes from Jaguars Radio Network coverage with Countdown to Kickoff. That's at noon Eastern Time. We'll return with a fantasy forecaster, Mike Dempsey, and we'll go back to the broadcast booth with Frank Franzi. The Jaguars and the Texans kick it off at 1 o'clock Eastern in Week 17. This is the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
You're beyond busy. Between work and the kids, the dogs and the cat, let us help. With Publix Delivery powered by Instacart, you'll get the items you need from the store you know. Just shop online, select the time you'd like your order delivered, and grocery shopping is done, giving you more time to take care of everything else.
Publix Delivery, powered by Instacart. Visit Publix.com/delivery to shop now. That's Publix.com/delivery. Item prices vary from in-store prices. Service fees may apply. Available in select zip codes. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure.
Sudduth is on the 20, the 10. Yes, another successful move to a new home. I tell you, folks, I've never seen a team more prepared than the Sudduth crew. With a dominating lead in training, trust, and efficiency, it's no wonder why Sudduth is the official moving company of the Jacksonville Jaguars. For the past 100 years, Sudduth has provided local, long-distance, and international moving services in Jacks. Call 904-638-7536 or visit sudduth.com/Jags.
How far should we go? When it comes to the health of children, we will stop at nothing, focusing on prevention as much as cures. Working with community leaders, educators, policymakers to make every child's world a place for them to thrive. Going to the nth degree and beyond. Nemours Children's Health, well beyond medicine. Join the journey at nemours.org/beyond.
Jags fans, Shaquille Griffin of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know you love when we put the QB in his place with a big interception, and now Luray Boyd Peanut Company is making every pick a winning play with the Peanut Pickoff. Every time the Jaguars make a pick, Luray Peanuts is going to donate to youth football initiatives throughout the Southeast, and the Jaguars Foundation will match every dollar. We get one play closer to victory, and our kids get to train for a brighter future. Everyone wins, except for the other team's QB. But hey, that's his problem.
Since 1916, Duval Motor Company is here to keep you and your vehicle off the sidelines. Their all-star lineup of dealerships provides superior sales, maintenance, and repairs for every make and model with Ford, Honda, Acura, Subaru, Chevrolet, and everything in between. At every Duval location across North Florida, Duval Motor Company always puts service first. In-store, online, or at your front door. Get service first with DuvalMotorCompany.com.
Storm season is here, and JEA is doing everything possible to prepare. We've invested millions in hardening our electric, water, and sewer systems to make them more resistant to extreme weather. By updating your contact information and signing up for alerts, you'll also be better prepared if a storm hits. And in the event we need to restore your power, we can keep you up to date on our efforts and get you back to normal sooner. Update your contact info today at JEA.com. JEA, building a more prepared community.
The Publix Tailgate Show continues. Publix, where shopping is a pleasure. JP Shadrick with Mike Dempsey from TIAA Bank Field in Jacksonville. The Jaguars at 7-8. The Houston Texans at 2-12-1. Kickoff at 1 o'clock Eastern in Week 17 down at NRG Stadium in Houston. It's time for a Week 17 fantasy forecast. And, Mike, it's, almost championship time, I guess, right?
I mean, almost championship time. It's championship week for your season-long leagues.
Excuse me.
JP, I'm guessing you're not playing fantasy football this year.
Well, if not, if I am, I'm not in the championship.
Well, I knew
apparently.
you weren't,
yeah.
so I could have put it that way, but I knew the accurate story. So early game kickoff players that are not available today include Jalen Hurts. As expected, he was doubtful on the injury report and got downgraded to out. Gardner Minshew will get another start. He was very viable as a fantasy starter last week. Should be that again if you're a Hurts manager looking for a boost. Arizona will start their fourth quarterback of the season in David Blau, and he won't have the services of DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins picked up a knee injury during the Friday walkthrough. He got downgraded yesterday, so he won't play. More for Marquise Brown and maybe Greg Dortch, a sneaky play in point per reception leagues like he was last week. Jerry Jeudy, coming off a hot streak right now, good to go. He was questionable on the injury report for Denver, but he'll be able to go against Kansas City. And the Patriots will have both Ramondre Stevenson and Damian Harris active in their backfield today. Harris returning after a few-week absence, and Stevenson had been questionable. In the 4 o'clock window this afternoon, players to keep an eye on: 49ers, Raiders. Deebo Samuel back at practice this week. He's going to miss at least another week, though, with knee and ankle issues. They're hopeful to get him on the field in Week 18. Las Vegas will start Jared Stidham at quarterback, which is prompting a lot of people to wonder whether they should start Devontae Adams, who had not been producing much lately, even with Derek Carr at the helm. It would depend on your options, certainly, but I would not expect high-end numbers from Adams today. Vikings at Packers today. Clean bill of health for all of Minnesota's skill position players, but keeping an eye on Christian Watson, who had a hip flexor injury for the Packers last week and exited before halftime. He is said to be a true game-time decision for Green Bay today. Rams at Chargers this afternoon. Tight end Tyler Higbee, questionable with an elbow issue for the Rams, is expected to give it a go. Austin Eckler entirely off the injury report, so that's good news for championship week for the Chargers. And Jets Seahawks today. Mike White back at quarterback, so if you've got any of the Jets pass catchers, you're very happy about that circumstance right now. And Kenneth Walker and Tyler Lockett with ankle and hand injuries, both questionable for the Seahawks, but expected to play. Lockett had surgery within the last 2 weeks, has 10 screws in his hand, but he practiced this week. And they said at the time it was a very kind of interesting surgery, one that sounds like it's very complicated, but one they thought he could return from quickly. So you'll have to watch when those mid-afternoon inactives are announced. But Walker and Lockett both expected to go as of now.
That would be something. 10 screws in the hand?
10 screws and a plate in his
Wow.
hand. And he's supposedly said he looked fine in practice this week. So.
He's, metal detectors will go off for the rest of his life with those in his hand, maybe. Who knows?
I'd probably take him out at some point, but yeah, in the short term, that might be an issue, JP.
Which aisle at Lowe's do you go to get those, by the way?
I don't think that's the kind they're carrying
Okay.
in right now.
Let's go to Houston, NRG Stadium, and join the voice of the Jaguars, Frank Frangie. It's Week 17 in the AFC South race. The game doesn't matter, but for the Jaguars, it certainly does. They've got a score to settle with the Texans today.
Good morning, JP and Mike. Happy New Year, and that's a lot of pins in the hand. I would agree with that. An awful lot. You better believe they do. The Jags are playing very well, JP. You're dead on. And Doug Peterson's trying to win the game. He was very clear about that from the get-go this week. It's an important game for the Jags for a lot of reasons. They haven't beaten this team in 9 times. They want to keep that momentum going. Obviously, next week's the one that decides everything. We all know that. But this is an important game on a lot of fronts, and the Jags can't wait to get going here.
You know, Frank, speaking of guys catching the football, you see the stats go around social media, and different sources grade things differently, but many have the Jaguars dropping the most passes of any team once again in the National Football League with 36. When you consider that and consider where they are offensively right now, it kind of tells me there's some hidden upside still to this offense.
Yeah, I think you're dead on, Mike. I think that's exactly right. They could be even better. Now, I will tell you, there's been games where it feels like they've dropped some balls, but I don't know that I find myself feeling like they've had the dropsies as much as these stats would indicate. But you're right. That's exactly what the stats say. Yeah, I think they can be even better. Here's the other thing, Mike, to that point. Trevor Lawrence is just figuring it out. It's been 4 or 5 games since he's been really, really good. Well, that's just the start of all this. So I got a hunch that the offense can do way more and will continue to do way more under Trevor Lawrence.
Yeah, and, just keep it rolling today as well. They're spreading it out to all these pass catchers, and they're all career high in yardage and trying to make these other career highs this season and spreading the wealth and helping each other out, blocking down the field for each other. It's a group that, I don't know if you could have asked for a better trio of free agent additions on an offense. These guys have the right mindset about them, and then they have gone out and executed as well as they can.
Well, that's the point, JP, the point you just made. They weren't here last year. Doug Peterson wasn't here last year. Trevor Lawrence was here, but under a totally different regime, and some believe a lost year, and certainly a different offense. So for all of this to come together this year for the first time and to work as famously as it did, it's pretty amazing stuff, and it really is. All the numbers are going to hit. Think about it. Christian Kirk's going over 1,000 yards today. Evan Ingram's going to go over 800 yards before it's over. Zay Jones might go over 800 today, and there's still a game left. If you look at what those 3 guys have done, how good those acquisitions have been, and how they have meshed with Trevor Lawrence, it's truly amazing stuff. I totally agree with that.
Yeah, you match that with Trevor having a very good chance to go over 4,000 yards passing today as well, so a lot of milestones potentially out there for the Jags. Frank, defensively, what do you focus on this week? We've talked about it a bunch. Dameon Pierce was the leading rusher the first time. He's on IR. Nico Collins was the only pass catcher to have more than 22 yards against the Jags in the first game. He's on injured reserve. What do you focus on? What are you concerned with as the Jaguars defense?
I really do think the Texans are going to play the 2-quarterback thing, Mike. Jeff Driscoll, I was just told by some people that are close to the Texans, might be one of the fastest players on their team. He's really – I can remember when he was at Florida how fast he was, right? So I think you're going to see that. And I think it is instructive to note that the only trouble the Jags really had with the Jets offense last week is when Chris Streveler came into the game and ran the football. Now, look, in fairness to the Jags, they weren't ready for that because nobody saw it coming. And this week, everybody kind of does see it coming. But I think that's one thing. Other than that, Davis Mills has been just okay. Brandon Cooks is a good player and has had a good year, but he's long in the tooth. There's not a lot of other options. I think don't do anything crazy. Get a moderate amount of pressure on Davis Mills and be concerned with that 2-quarterback thing. I think you'll see Jeff Driscoll early in the game today, Mike, maybe the second or third series, and as long as that doesn't get away from him, I think the Jags defense is going to be okay.
Frank Frangie joining us from Houston. A couple minutes left here, Frank. So Doug Peterson's playing the guys today. He's not sitting, even if they're on the report, questionable, all that, it's damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead this week to try to keep this thing going. And there's a handful of guys on defense that have been on that report for a couple weeks. Trayvon Walker is one of those. Foley Fatukasi is another one of those. And they're out there playing, and that gives you an idea of what Doug Peterson thinks about this game today.
Yeah, and I'll tell you this too, JP. I talked to Doug about this week a little bit. This is a young team, and he had to teach this team how to be ready to play every Sunday. We saw that early in the year, how to finish games. This isn't a veteran team that's known how to do that and has had success doing that over a long haul. If it had been, then maybe you'd treat this thing a little differently. But it's a young team that's had to learn how to win, right? And so you can't spend all these weeks teaching a team how to be ready to play on Sunday and then all of a sudden say, well, you don't have to be quite as ready this Sunday because the game doesn't matter as much. But, oh, by the way, next Sunday you got to be ready again. I don't think you can play it that way. And I think that's one of the reasons Doug's all in here. I think he wants to keep the same midweek message that he's had all year long, JP, and that is be ready to play, get after it, let's go win the football game. So, and again, I said it at the top here, he has not wavered from that, man. That has been his position. Let's go win the football game, and I'm glad he feels that way.
Yeah, no doubt. This is not the Patriots salty veteran teams that you can turn it off and on, so you got to keep the switch turned on now for this Jaguars team. Have a great call today, Frank. Appreciate it.
Okay, fellas, thank you.
Frank Frangie from NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas. The Jaguars trying to keep this streak alive, get back to 500 with a chance to be over 500 with a win next week. Of course, the Tennessee Titans are in town in Week 18 for a winner-take-all battle for the AFC South title, but still plenty to play for today for the Jacksonville Jaguars, trying to keep that wild card backdoor hope alive. And if a tie next week comes into play, they need today's game as well. So the starters going for the Jaguars today in Houston. Network coverage coming up next with Countdown to Kickoff. We'll hear from Fred Taylor and the final word before kick with Jags head coach Doug Peterson. Just over an hour away from kickoff at NRG Stadium in Houston, and thanks for listening to the Publix Tailgate Show on Jaguars Radio.
You're beyond busy.